Yeah. Does it talk about expectations or no?
No, very brief article. Just says old guy raising money for wounded warriors and has a bugle.
Okay, so what about Killington? Okay, so he made it to Killington, and now he's heading towards the Whites.
Yeah.
So keep a lookout.
Yeah, a week and a half, he should be here.
This is super cool. I mean, we should definitely try to find the guy. Maybe I'll try to get out there and film him or something.
Yeah, well, if he's going to be in Evans Notch this weekend, I might see him. Probably not, though.
You'll hear him.
So then, in keeping with the theme of people carrying weird shit while they're hiking the Appalachian Trail, there's another guy that he came through the Whites last week. So he's probably in the Mahoozics at this point. The guy's name is Sean Mahoney, and he hit Moosilauke. Or Moosilauke. Matter of fact, my wife was at she was at her yoga class last night, and the instructor was talking about how she was going hiking, and she's like obsessed with hiking, apparently, this lady, and she was saying how she didn't know whether it was Moosilauke or Moosilauke, and my wife asked me, and I was like, I call it Moosilauke, but...
Well, you should direct them to the episodes that we discussed this.
Well, then my wife said, she's like, it's always so embarrassing, but she's like, I told the lady that's going hiking, she was like, well, my husband hosts a podcast. And the lady was like, oh my God, I want to know all about it. So she plugged the podcast. So maybe the yoga instructor's listening now. Moosilauke. But anyway, I got off track. So there's this guy, Sean Mahoney.
Broadcasting from the Woodpeckers Studio in the great state of New Hampshire. Welcome to the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast, where we discuss all things related to hiking and search and rescue in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. Here are your hosts, Mike and Stomp.
I'm live. I'm recording.
I'm live too.
Let's do it live. All right, so this is episode 65, Stomp. So welcome.
65.
We can retire now.
Yeah, sure.
And
with all these donations, actually, you may be able to.
I don't know. But just so that you are aware ahead of time, there may be some noise going on. My daughter decided to... I'm in the Woodpecker Studio. South Virgin is in my basement. So I get my daughter doing laundry, and then my wife's been like doing dishes upstairs. So you might hear some water going on. So I apologize.
Some clanging.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to know, Stomp, you did the Pemmy float, and yes. I want to know, how was that?
Oh my God, it was perfect.
How many people?
We had about a dozen or so. I mean, geez, it was high 80s, maybe low 90s. Just beautiful. The water was flowing really well. It wasn't low. I didn't scrape the bottom of the tubes once. It was like perfect. Absolutely a great time.
Yeah. I think last time I went, that was like, there was some sections where we had to like just walk like it was like ankle depth or something like that. But we made, most of it was floating.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've had enough rain recently to really up the water, so it was fine.
Where do you start? Or is this secret? Like, can you give away all the details?
During COVID, several spots closed because of the amount of people that were showing up. But we start maybe exit 28 off at 93, and that's Campton. Mm-hmm. There are different variations, but they tend to be a lot longer. And if you have low water, it can be a hell of a day. It's just like way too long. When I showed up for this one, Nick Grillo, yep. By the way, he had kayaks. So, that's always a safe bet this time of the year or late fall. But, we did tubes and it was fine. Absolutely fine. So there were different sections. Like Jimmy Chaga was saying, hey, let's try some different area. let's go north, let's go south, whatever. And we love this one spot. It's like maybe 3 miles. You know, you fill up your cooler, get your tubes, simple car spot, easy peasy.
Just hit a sandbar and that's it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we stopped several times. I think this trip took us, let me see, we started around 11 and we probably got out around 4-ish, 5-ish, if I remember correctly.
And did Jimmy go?
That's a long day. Yeah. No, he had some other obligations.
What was your float? Did you have the rainbow unicorn, or did you do something else?
So Mrs. Stomp had the ice dragon from Game of Thrones, and I had a giraffe, which was pretty cool. Yeah, nice little giraffe with like a 6-foot tall neck.
All right, Mrs. Stomp, if you can just send us some photos of that Stomp on the giraffe, that would be great.
Oh, yeah, all sunburned. I mean, I got fried.
Yeah. So then you start at exit 28, you go over the river, and then there's like that little pull off where we went. I remember we went that one time, and there was like that. Remember there was like an accident, like a motorcycle got hit by a car or something.
Yeah,
a big thing.
Well, that's what I mean. That spot was closed because there were so many people, and it was private property. So whoever owns that, they closed that, but you can still access it from the north side of 49.
Okay.
You come off exit 28, take a left, and there's a gravel quarry on the left. Directly opposite on the right, you'll see the parking spot.
Okay.
And then again, 3 miles down, it's the farm table or the covered bridge. I mean, it's simple to find.
And then you go down like 3-4 miles, and then it's, what is it, exit 27? You just go on and you leave a car there, and then you're good to go.
Yeah, U.S. Forest Service, same exit.
Okay, wow. Well, that's good times if anybody's ever looking to do something fun.
Good
I feel like it's not as crowded as the Saco, though. Like, maybe I'm wrong, but like
definitely
I feel
not.
Like the Saco gets crazy, especially like between North Conway and into Freiburg. If you go to, like, from Freiburg into like the Brownfield Bridge, and if you go beyond the Brownfield Bridge into Hiram and Saco, it's like nobody. But I feel like the Pemi is not as
super
crowded.
clean too.
Oh yeah,
super clean. The last time I did the Saco was like way back, like had to be like maybe 20 years ago. Super, I don't know. I was not really happy with it. It was pretty dirty.
Yeah, well, I don't know how dirty it is now, but it's just like chaotic. Like there's, especially if you go from Saco bound, which is right on Route 16, like that's chaotic to the pig farm. Going from like the Freiburg, there's a bridge in Freiburg that you go to the Brownfield Bridge. That's okay. There's like little ponds that you can go off and chill out and whatever, but even that gets crowded. But if you go from like the Brownfield Bridge down into Hiram on the Saco, that's awesome because it's like never crowded. It's pretty deep though, so you can't really float. You have to like take a canoe or a kayak.
Huh.
So, I mean, I guess you can float, but I just never did that. So,
yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, the Pemi is super shallow. I mean, there are maybe a handful of spots that are a bit deeper, but, you know, as long as it's not flowing really fast and deep, you're good. They have that phrase, you know, if the Pemi is brown, you will drown. And I think you take that to heart, you know, for the most part, because that river is pretty dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, when I went on it was pretty tame, but I could imagine like it could get crazy. I've seen it running very hot, obviously. What do you do for like keeping your drinks cold? I can't remember what we did last time, but like I feel like we just dragged like drinks behind us somehow, but I can't remember. Did we have like a separate float with a cooler?
Yeah, I think there are two methods that I've seen. You have either an inflatable sort of cylindrical float that will hold ice and beers or drinks or whatever, or you have what I use personally is like this rectangular float with a net floor that you can put your cooler in. So that's what we use. It just gives you a little more space, and you can tuck your, you know, flip-flops or whatever you need in between. So that works out pretty well. I find the cylindrical thing a little too small, but there are so many different things. I mean, some of the people going down the river have these monstrous like like it's like Waterworld, like these mega cities that they attach together, like several floats and this and that. But yeah, you can find those things at Walmart or any place in particular. Now, like give it like one more month and all the stuff disappears. You know how they rotate stuff so early. Yeah. Now's the time to get your floats for sure.
Yeah, no, it's a fun time. So I highly recommend that, especially if you're a family and you're like looking for something unique to do and you're staying in Lincoln for like a week or whatever, and you got a free day. Like floating the Pemi is just make sure that like you're responsible, and if you got kids, you're bringing like life jackets and all that stuff. And obviously, totally. If there's like crazy rain or whatever, like keep an eye on things, get some intel. But generally, like this time of the year, if it hasn't rained a lot, it's pretty mellow to float on the Pemi.
Yeah, especially this stretch from like 27 to exit 28 to 27.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Awesome. All right, stop. So changing subjects here, I have a new Netflix obsession.
Oh, yeah? Really? I thought they were going out of business.
I don't know. I guess they're not. But they have this new show, and it's actually pretty great. It's called Snowflake Mountain.
Oh, okay. Do tell.
Yeah. So have you seen it?
I've seen the little avatar for it, but I have no idea what it's about.
So I got the next show for you and Mrs. Stomp here. So you'll like it. So it's like 10 young people, and they all seem to be like financially dependent on their parents. They all seem to like, they give the backstory, like they're getting driven to like this. They think it's like a 5-star resort. But they do the backstory. So they all seem to be financially dependent on their parents. They all seem to have like really bad attitudes. They seem to like sort of brag about the fact that they like have a poor work ethic, very superficial, attitudes, which I find that like that is like the meme version of young people today. But like what I've found is like through my work and through like my own kids and their friends, like I don't find that to be true. I find that like a lot of these younger folks are a lot smarter, more put together than I ever was, good work ethic. And, so a lot of that stuff is just like, they're looking to get an audience here. But anyway, 10 superficial young people supposed to be going to a 5-star resort. The parents are essentially like, it's like a soft, like wilderness camp type of situation, but it's like they think they're on a reality show competition. They're going to go to this nice resort, but they really take them to the top of this like mountain. The location's in the UK, so it's like it almost looks like a logging road that you would see in like Western Maine or something. So it's not like a giant mountain or anything like that. But
Lincoln Woods.
Yeah, it's like yeah, and then they like basically they dump their suitcases out, and they tell them like you can only take certain things, and like some of the girls are like, I need my full makeup kit and all this stuff, and they have no idea like what's going on in the wilderness. And then they put like these 2 guys that are like essentially like the Mike and Stomps of like the show, and they're these like
I want to see these guys now.
Yeah, they're like they're better looking. Well, one of them's better looking than us, but the other one's not so much. But they're like the ones that are supposed to be like the wilderness, like survival people. Not that I'm a survival, but you get the point. Like they have experience in the outdoors, so they don't take any shit. And they're telling these 10 people that they're going to be in this show that's like requires them to like do stuff in the outdoors. So they've got to build like a lean-to, and they got to do all these activities. And then the people that are the most annoying get like voted onto this like isolation lake, which is like they've got to march down. They have to march down like a mile away from everybody else that's in like these yurts or whatever, and deal with isolation lake, where they're like by themselves sleeping in these like lean-tos. And I don't know if they had any sleeping pads or anything like that. They were screaming about how they were freezing and like they, very uncomfortable in the outdoors. So, it's an amusing show. I thought it was pretty good. It's a good way to sort of kill 45 minutes or so.
Yeah. So what season was this for the episode or season?
This is first season, and I think
I get that, but like winter, summer. I mean,
it looks like it could be like late spring or early fall. Like it's not super hot, but it's not freezing cold either.
Yeah. Okay. Which is a challenge for sure for most people.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think the temperature
shoulder season is, it's safe for like a production like that, but it's not.
Exactly. So, I thought it was pretty good, but I just feel like I do think like young people in general do tend to get a bad rap when it comes to like these types of shows, I think that they take the most sort of vapid caricatures of what you think young people are like and exploit that versus the reality. Like I know a ton of like young
Sadly.
people that are into hiking and outdoors and like are really put together well when it comes to their careers and their education and, you know, their fitness and wellness. So I like the show and it's a funny concept, but I also feel like it's a little disingenuous that they're just picking on like this generation, making them seem like they're more disorganized than they are.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of the trend with a lot of these shows. They're just looking for the clicks or whatever. I haven't seen a show yet where they really treat the people fairly. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's none of these reality shows are reality, but it did get me thinking, Stomp. I was thinking about, you know, there is definitely like that streak of sort of like vapidness and, you know, very shallow approach, like especially people that are like in the social media influencing and things like that. And, you know, I've noticed like Coachella and like Burning Man and these sort of outdoor concert venues, like these festivals. 3 or 4 day, like these festival things. Like it seems like people are very into, you know, getting in touch with nature through these festivals or whatever. But then again, they're not so much, but it makes me wonder, like, at what point are some of these influencers and some of these, you know, famous people gonna discover, like, through hiking and
simplicity,
long distance hiking and but bringing sort of their sensibilities around like the Hollywood lifestyle. Like, when is somebody famous going to find the AT and start hiking and it's going to become a thing? Like, I do think that that's going to happen eventually.
I can pinpoint a few, and you may know that Peter Dinklage is an avid hiker.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yep.
He's one. On my end, in the DJ world, there's a DJ who's from the UK whose name is Genix with a G, Genix. Mm-hmm. And he's always hiking. And he's actually like, when he'll do a show out in New York, like Manhattan, he'll get some of his, you know, fans together to do a hike through, you know, Central Park. So there are people out there, but you're right. It's not as common as you would think.
Yeah, and these things have a way of ebbing and flowing. Like, I know running, especially running, like road races in the like mid 2000s were huge. Like, you know, you get like, I remember doing like Wednesday night races in southern New Hampshire with like 1,000 people running a 10K, crazy stuff. And now like a lot of these road races, they're scraping by to get like 300-400 people. So things do, they ebb and flow. But I'm just like, oh my God, the Kardashians discover through hiking or something. What a nightmare.
Yeah, I think I grew up with the Great Race in Lynn and Boston and all the suburbs. Do you remember that?
No.
Basically, people would run X amount of miles and hit different bars along the way. Like, there was almost like this greater sense of community attached to it as well, which community seems to be missing with a lot of these things, unfortunately.
Yeah, because everybody's like got their face in their phones or whatever. So
who knows?
They get their community itch through their like social media groups. But I've definitely seen like different running clubs that have that sort of like run to one bar and then run to another or whatever, and stuff like that. But
interesting.
Anyway, Snowflake Mountain is the show on Netflix, Stomp. So report back to me and let me know when you watch.
Will do.
All right. So next thing, we got breaking news, Stomp. Big news on the not Lodge to Dodge, but Dodge to Lodge.
Yes. Can you believe it?
Tell the audience
when did you find out?
I think you texted me on Saturday morning and you were like, oh my God, Steve is 60 miles into Lodge to Dodge. And I think you originally thought he was going northbound, but then I had no idea on us.
I had no idea what he was doing. I had no idea he was doing it. I had no idea he was training for it. I had no idea of anything.
So, for the audience's sake, like Steve Mason, like him and Larson did the Lodge to Dodge a couple of weeks ago. Steve, we met him up in Zealand Trail. Me and Stomp met him and hiked out with him. He
wasn't feeling great.
Yeah, he wasn't feeling great or whatever. But like he's one of those guys that like, okay, he's got a challenge in front of him. He needs to complete it. Like, there was no way he wasn't going back to do it. And
I should have known that with Steve, but with my experience with Steve, he has like a full year booked out. So I figured, okay, he's done for Lodge to Dodge for the next, until next summer. So I wake up Saturday morning at 7 a.m. or so, and I have a text from Larson, who completed the Lodge to Dodge previously. And it's a picture, exactly what you said, that Steve's 60 miles in, and he's doing... And at the time, I didn't notice the wording. I just assumed it was Lodge to Dodge, but it was Dodge to Lodge. So Lodge to Dodge in reverse. And the message was very simple. It's like, show up at Ravine Lodge at 11:30, and he's like, 10 miles left to go. So literally, I roll out of bed, just put my clothes on, and run out the door. It was crazy. When I sent you the text, I was literally going out the door. So I make my way to Ravine Lodge, and I could not believe it. There were cars all the way out to the highway, which is 118.
Yep.
So that road from 118 into the lodge itself is probably 2 miles. It was packed with cars, and it just reinforced the idea that I never want to hike a 48 ever again.
Yeah.
I know, I'm all set. It's like, oh my God, I could not believe it. So I pull up to the junction where the sign says no parking beyond the Y here, know. So, I just sort of broke the rules and drove down to where the bridge was with my truck, and I put on the I belong here face. Have you ever tried that?
Oh yeah, fake it till you make it.
Okay, yeah. So I put the I belong here face on and drove right to the bridge and parked and just got ready for them to show up. And they pulled it off. It was really nice. Like, as I was waiting, Captain Chris Wright and Tracy Morgan showed up, and we were chatting for a while. And what they revealed to me as we were waiting for Steve was that he was a little bit in his head. That's probably the wrong phrase to use, but it was definitely a chip on his shoulder. I guess that's a little gentler. But the amount of support that he had for each segment of this adventure, remind you, it's like 70 plus miles.
Yeah, 70, what do you get? 73 miles, around 30,000 feet of elevation gain, and it was about 35 hours.
Yeah. There were characters on this adventure that I had not met and that I did not meet, but basically Captain Chris started with him in the wee hours of the morning and did the Wildcats. He did the Wildcats with Steve,
okay.
And then met up with a few others. It's a very complicated support team, and I can't wait to get them all in here to talk about it because I'm so impressed. The final team, there were 4 folks. Larson joined in from, I believe, Lonesome Lake, along with Gwen Stratton and Brady, who was on the original attempt. So they came rolling in a little later than 11:30. It was closer to 12, but he pulled it off. And the big difference with this one, 2 differences. It's a Dodge to Lodge, sure. It's the reverse. It's backwards. Some may say it's easier in a sense. It's like going downhill. When you know what Steve did, you're gonna say, okay, yeah, that's bullshit. He added all of the peaks of the presidential. So this is Steve's original vision. My original vision was a hut-to-hut with the Wildcats and Joe Dodge and then Ravine Lodge added on. When Steve came on board, he was like, oh, dude, we got to add on all the peaks. So that is what he pulled off on this one. So it's absolutely incredible. It's an incredible feat.
Yeah, it's very impressive. So he, I got the sense from just when we drove back to, to Pinkham after the first time, like I definitely got the sense that he was going to do it again. I just didn't think it would
like soon.
Quickly. Yeah, I didn't get a sense that it would be that quick though.
I didn't either. Yeah, it was like the perfect weekend though.
Yes.
The weather was perfect.
Yeah, it's amazing. But let's put a pin in this so that we can. I think we're going to try to get Stephen Larson into the studio to just do a deep dive on this one. So we'll get into it in a week or two.
Yeah, for sure, because we want to talk about the first one, the second one, and where it's going from there.
Okay, so just switching topics now, Stomp. We've got a couple of. We always cover these in the beginning. I don't know why people are into this, but like just sort of weird. People carry weird stuff when they're hiking. So there's this guy that he is in Vermont right now. Is this what I'm reading correctly? Yep. So this is a multi-state hiker. He is a veteran who is raising funds for the Wounded Warrior Project. So
that's a great outfit.
Yeah. And he is carrying a bugle on the Appalachian Trail. So this is definitely the most annoying guy in the morning at the shelter. No question. He's playing. What is that called? Is it taps in the morning?
Taps? Oh, yeah. Yeah, it could be taps.
Though, or taps is a funeral thing. What's the one that you wake up in the morning?
Yeah. Who knows?
Anyway, but this guy is retired Navy Captain Donald Root. So he's a former Special Forces man. So even though you might get annoyed at the guy, for doing the wake up call with the bugle in the morning, like he's still going to be able to kick your butt. So anyway, he is a 68-year-old Special Forces veteran. So he's doing the full Appalachian Trail. So he just hit Vermont. So if you're
2,000 miles.
Yeah. And this was on. This article was like yesterday, so he'll probably be hitting New Hampshire in probably the next couple of weeks, week and a half maybe. So keep an eye out for a guy with a bugle.
Yeah. Does it talk about expectations or no?
No, very brief article. Just says old guy raising money for wounded warriors and has a bugle. Okay,
so what about Killington? Okay, so we made it to Killington. And now he's heading towards the Whites.
Yeah.
So keep a lookout.
Yeah, a week and a half, he should be here.
This is super cool. I mean, we should definitely try to find the guy. Maybe I'll try to get out there and film him or something.
Yeah, well, if he's going to be in Evans Notch this weekend, I might see him. Probably not, though.
You'll hear him.
So then, in keeping with the theme of people carrying weird shit while they're hiking the Appalachian Trail, there's another guy that... he came through the Whites last week, so he's probably in the Mahoosics at this point. The guy's name is Sean Mahoney, and he hit Moosilauke. Matter of fact, my wife was at she was at her yoga class last night, and the instructor was talking about how she was going hiking, and she's like obsessed with hiking, apparently, this lady, and she was saying how she didn't know whether it was Moosilauke or Moosilauke, and my wife asked me, and I was like, I call it Moosilauke, but...
Well, you should direct them to the episodes that we discussed this.
Well, then my wife said, she's like, it's always so embarrassing, but she's like, I told the lady that's going hiking, she was like, well, my husband hosts a podcast. And the lady was like, oh my God, I want to know all about it. So she plugged the podcast. So maybe the yoga instructor's listening now. It's Moosilauke. But anyway, I got off track. So there's this guy, Sean Mahoney. He just hit Moosilauke on the 22nd. So he's probably, like I said, he's probably through the Whites at this point and maybe on his way up the Mahoosics. But he is carrying I don't know how to describe this. It's not a fence post. I guess it would be a fence post, but like not like an 8-foot tall fence post. It's like it looks like it's about 5 feet tall, but it's a fence post, or a post that you would put like a sign on or whatever. And he calls it Larry. So
Larry.
Yeah. So he's got Larry, and he holds it like on his shoulder.
Okay. Is that like a friend or like a deceased friend or something? Or I
don't know. It's just got a bunch of signatures on it. So I think all the thru hikers like sign it. I think he's just carrying it to be extra. So he's traveled 1,800 miles, and he's got about 400 miles to go, and he's been carrying Larry along with his gear for the whole time. So and it's really, I saw this, and the thing that made me interested is that back when I was in college, we had a pole or a fence post that we carried around. Our fence post was 8 feet tall. Yeah, it was like it was a heavy, like pressure treated circular or cylinder like post, and you had to carry it around. It was like painted black, and then it had my fraternity letters on it, Kappa Delta Phi, if anybody's out there. And we called it Mrs. Leonard because the founding father of our fraternity was a guy named Nahum Leonard. So the pole that we carried around as pledges was called Mrs. Leonard. And we used to have to carry that thing around everywhere.
That's so bizarre.
Yeah. So for me, I was like, oh, this guy's got his own Mrs. Leonard.
Huh. I'm so glad I was the introvert through high school and into college. I missed all this stuff.
Yeah, well, believe me, it was no piece of cake carrying that dumb stick around like on campus. Everyone look at us. You couldn't get away with that nowadays. I think it's called hazing, but back then we did it.
That's for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, this guy Sean Mahoney's carrying a big log over his shoulder just to be extra.
Yeah. If anybody needs like any kindling, you can maybe ask him to shave a few, I don't know, ounces off or something, or
exactly
make it a little lighter.
All right, next thing we got here in the news. So there's a hiker, Stomp, you sent me this video. I saw this video also, so I'll post this on the show notes. So this hiker is getting stalked by a black bear, and the black bear is like
playing with him.
What are those? There was like a cartoon that used to be, the way I would describe it is like, maybe it was Yogi Bear. I can't remember, but there'd be like these scenes and like these cartoons that we used to grow up with. It'd be like you'd be in a forest, and then somebody would tiptoe from like one tree to another and hide behind the tree. That's sort of what the bear is doing to this guy, I feel like.
Oh yeah, but over time it gets within probably 10 feet, and it's getting pretty aggressive. It looks playful, but this guy's panicking. You know he's panicking because he's running out of options for sure. He does have like a little canister of bear spray, and that's what you see progress over the time of the video. He squirts it a couple times, and the bear, backs off a little bit, and then ultimately, the bear gets within, say, 5 feet, climbs up a tree, and he gets the bear right in the nose with the spray, and the bear runs off like 30 feet.
Yeah.
The funny thing about it is how he's talking to the bear, because everybody probably knows by now that you're supposed to look really big and make yourself seem loud and obnoxious, and this guy's like, "Hello, bear. You're a good beer." You know what I mean? Yeah. You could tell this guy was panicking.
Oh, I would have been freaking out too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The thing is, like, none of us carry beer spray. Like, if that happened to us, what would you do? I guess I'd have to hit it with my hiking pole.
No, I think your idea is the best. I think you have like an emergency pack of peanut butter that you just like freaking chuck at them and then run. Yeah. Like, give them the food that they want and then run. It's like base jumping. It's like you hold on to that little parachute and you throw it when you need that chute to pop out.
Yeah, so I guess that's fair. I mean, the bear will eventually be dead because it's going to learn that it can get eaten or it can get food by scaring the crap out of people. But
Mike, I'm thinking this is a slasher merchandise angle here. I think we can start making slasher bear packs that you can like throw a bear to save your ass. Yeah, what do you think?
We'll see. What's so funny, the random guy in the comments is like the expert on bear behavior. He's like, when they do that definitely means that they're going to be aggressive. It's like, how do you know? The guy the bear could just be curious, but it did look a little freaky. Like, it's just, I mean, it's got to be boring for these bears. They're like out in the woods by themselves, doing nothing all day, trying to like find blueberries. They see some human with something on his head. They're like, hey, what's going on? They're checking it out.
Exactly. Yeah. But you're still going to panic regardless.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So next topic here, Stomp. We'll do this one now. We're never going to get to the show intro, but we will eventually.
This is fun.
There was a dog rescue on Moosilauke. So basically, this was on Sunday. You were up there on Saturday. Sunday, there was a dog that was in distress on Moosilauke on the Gorge Brook Trail. And this was another one very similar to Odin, where it was a friend of the dog owner that put out a message saying that her friend had notified her that there was a dog in distress. 120-pound dog, turned out to be a Burmese mountain dog.
Yeah.
And the lady who had posted it, she looked to be an experienced hiker, so she was like putting out the word, and she's like, if anybody's in that with can you help, please? It took her a little while to sort of get details. I don't think she had details other than like she was going up to like help with the rescue.
So what about weather? What, was that the 90-degree day?
Yeah, it was a warm day.
It was Sunday. Super hot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a warm day. So I think I think she posted around 10 o'clock, and I was like looking at it. I had to break down we had a big party here, so I was like outside doing a bunch of stuff, but I kind of kept an eye on it, and I was like, yeah, it's another Odin situation. Pretty early on, she had said that the dog was 120 pounds, so even they didn't have a pack-a-paw, but even if they did have one, like the other thing you need to factor in is like you probably need a muzzle, so the dog's not going to freak out. And then you need someone that's going to be strong enough to carry a 120-pound dog. So the whole thing is just dubious. But the way she described it, it was a mile and a half up from the lodge. So they were on Gorge Brook. So that would put them just around the point where the Gorge Brook Trail connects with the drainage. So you know how like Gorge Brook deviates from the drainage significantly about a mile and a half up? Like they must have been like right in that area there. So not a bad spot.
It's funny you mentioned that because that's where that kid turned around, Arun. That's where they sent him back down trail. So it's funny, back to Steve. While I was waiting for Steve to show up, I was talking with some random hikers that were coming by about that rescue. And that's exactly where they turned around. They said, oh, go back down trail. You'll be fine.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. So
it is.
Anyway, next day the dog ends up getting in trouble here. So I think, it was hot. I don't know, maybe they said that the dog's paws were cut up. So obviously, you think like, okay, I got a mountain dog, but like it's a big, heavy dog. It's got a big, thick, coat of fur, and its paws, like it wouldn't move essentially. So there was a lot of good, I feel like the 4,000 Footer group, this is the Facebook page that Eric Bertrand and Christine is the other admin. They're pretty well run group, and everybody got organized. Like there was a lot of people that were like, look, get a pack-a-paw. They were apparently a lot of these like AMC locations, and they'll have a bag. I think that I forget the name of. Oh damn it! I forget the name of the place in North Conway. I'll post it in the show notes. I feel horrible. But the place in North Conway that it's like an animal supply store. They raised funds through a GoFundMe to set up like safety packages with pack-a-paw and a bunch of other supplies for dogs when they get injured, and they're in the AMC huts across the White Mountains. So they were like looking to see if anybody had one of the rescue packages for the dogs. But regardless, a bunch of people were like, I'm on my way up. Like one person was like 2 hours away, and they were like, I'm on my way right now with a friend. And a bunch of people, like within about an hour or two, everybody was like calling in. And it looked like from the picture I saw, they got like probably around 10 to 12 people. They probably picked up some random hikers coming down. It's a Sunday at Moosilauke, so I'm assuming there was a bunch of people there. But it looked like what they did is that they were able to tape up the paws, put some gauze on there, maybe like, I guess, give the dog a little bit of relief on their feet, and then they had a harness around the dog, and it looked like they were like sort of, the picture I saw, it looked like they were kind of propping the dog up and taking some of the weight off the dog's foot.
So it's fascinating. So what kind of tape? Like maybe like a layer of gauze and then athletic tape, or
I don't know, but it looked like from the picture I could see, like I kind of zoomed in on the paws, and it looked like they had like they put booties on. And then maybe had like some wrap around the booties, but I don't know what they might have put, like some sort of like, like paw, like wax or so. I don't know what they do. To do, honestly, I should probably look into that, but it seemed like they were able to like soften up the pain on the dog's feet. And, shit happens. Owners, they don't always know. They push the dog past the red line. And then, I've definitely gone hiking and I've seen like blood on rocks and stuff like that with dogs. We hear these stories. We had the Odin episode last year. So it's just people got to keep an eye on their dogs and not push the dogs.
Yeah, I think we should have Pacapar on because obviously they have some insight that would be really helpful for people. I mean, they made this cool piece of gear that I think is fantastic. Giving it to the shelters, giving it to like AMC and stuff like that, that's really cool. But they may have some really great insight as to how to really take your dog up safely.
I'll post everything, obviously, the link to for your paws only. That's what it is, for your paws only. I think that's so basically, like when you call for a rescue, there's a couple of different like dog rescues, but I think For Your Paws is the group.
Yes,
maybe they will form based on that like St. Bernard rescue that happened on Mount Washington on Bootspur a couple of years ago. I don't know the history. I should actually see if we can get this crew on along with the Pack of Paws people, and we'll reach out to them and see what they say.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, we'll have to do that. But anyway, all's well that ends well with the dog. And, obviously, like, I think clearly the owner, like, just made a mistake and they did what they needed to do. Like, they did not leave the dog. And kudos to the lady that posted on the Facebook page and was able to get everything going for the rescue.
Yeah, good job.
Anyway, hey, just give me a second here, Stomp. I gotta pause for a minute.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, we'll just break this. Hey, Caroline, don't run the dryer yet. All right, wait till I finish.
I should definitely leave this in.
I'll let you know. It should be done in about a half hour. Don't run any wash. Okay. All right. Anyway,
do you know how tempted I am to leave that in?
You can if you want. You can. You can do something with editing there.
Well, it's like you're being tortured by kids. I'm being tortured by Daphne. I think this is nice behind the scenes.
Well, if you want to leave it in, she's so disappointed. Like she's like thinking she's going to do the laundry. I get it. She's got to go to work tomorrow, but this is my business.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You get that Tesla yet or what?
No. I'm like, my wife's like bugging me about getting a new car, and I'm like, no way. Like, you should drive that Pilot for another 100,000 miles.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Well, so merchandise updates, and we're never going to get to the show opener here. This is the longest opener, but anyway, merchandise updates. So stickers have gone out. So the intern has worked diligently to address all the envelopes and put the stickers in. I think I pretty much threw 3 stickers in for everybody that asked. And I think it was like 100 it was like close to 200 people that got stickers. So there's a bunch of stickers. And,
wow.
Yeah.
That's
tons.
intense.
And then
I don't even have one, for God's sake.
I know. I'm going to mail yours out. I have to I have to send yours in like a package. So I got to go to the post office. I'm going to do that tomorrow.
No, you know what you should do is like put it somewhere, like put a sticker up on like the toll booth, and I'll have to like pry it off of the toll booth and take it, or like put it up on a trail sign or something.
Well, I already know
that'll go over big.
There's a couple of places in North Conway where there's stickers. So there's like an electric or some sort of like a utility box right across from the Met.
Yeah,
on the other side, like that has a ton of stickers, and then there's the the gondola like thing that's outside the Moat Mountain Brewery that has a bunch of stickers, so that's going to get tagged too. Oh,
that reminds me, like loon gondolas.
Yes.
Just kidding. Don't want to get us in trouble.
Well, anywhere that there's like, don't put them anywhere where they're standalone, but if there's like places where a bunch of people have stickers, like put it on there.
Yeah. I'll put one on my DJ crate for my mixer.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool,
I have
man.
one on my phone holder here.
Oh, that's a great idea. Well, actually, I'm sure they make phone holders that you can put the graphic on as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, so
Cool.
the merchandise, so the stickers are out. You can still order them. I'll just do it once a week. I'll have the intern do it once a week. She'll send them out if you want to add. And you don't need to send me a Venmo with any money. Like a bunch of people sent extra money, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much for everyone. That'll cover the
Tesla.
The Tesla. And then hats and shirts are coming, so should be ready to post an order link right after the 4th of July holiday. So we are going to take a break, just as a heads up. We're going to take a break. So this show is going to get pushed out on Friday, whatever that is, maybe July 1st. And then the week of the show for July 8th, we won't put anything out. We'll return on July 15th. So this will be the beginning of a 1 week break for us.
Yeah. We're busy.
We're busy, yeah. I haven't gone hiking, so I'm going hiking all weekend.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Couple of donation reminders. Rebecca is out there. She started her redlining pursuit, so I think she's a week in and she's killing it. She was up north and now she's making her way around the white. So if you want to donate to support Christopher's Haven for Rebecca Sperry, we'll put the link in the show notes. If you want to, I think the Alzheimer's Association is, they've done their longest day and they've done the bulk of their fundraising, but we'll also put a link into their fundraising page, and then also the New Hampshire Outdoor Council. And then also, if you want to purchase a hike safe card, we'll put in links to all of those for the show notes so you can take a look.
Excellent. Good job, Rebecca.
All right. Yes. And Stomp, it leads us into sponsors and coffee for you.
All right. First, we have El Rojo 1983 says, "What do you call a tick with no eyes?" A tick? It's basically TCK. This guy sent this in, or this person sent it in. So there's a little tick joke for you.
All right. That was horrible, but okay.
A tick. Shandy. Oh my goodness, this is going to Mike's Tesla fund. Shandy donated 15 coffees, which is unheard of. That's crazy. She was over the moon finishing her 48 and decided to support the podcast in a major way. So Shandy, thank you so much. It's super cool.
Yeah, and I just wanted to give Shandy a shout out as well. I just commented on her Facebook page. So she had posted a ton of pictures. So she finished with her friend John. They killed it. She did a Zealand Bonge Traverse as her finish, which was the big hike. She put in a ton of miles and they really got perfect weather for it and everything. So they did an overnight. So huge shout out to Shandy. She's been a big supporter of the show for a long time.
Huge.
And, we definitely owe her a gratitude, and we wanted to just give her a special congratulations.
No question about it. And also for all the others that have been supporting us regularly. Yep. I mean, it's just amazing. So AR donated 5, and AR wants us to know that they use the podcast as a bear bell. So I'm assuming they crank it up really loud and just walk and scare off. I mean, I guess it's sort of an insult to scare off any bear by listening to us. I don't know. So there you go.
I get it. And whatever works.
Yeah, whatever works. And that's it. So we have, of course, thank you so much, EMS, for supporting the podcast. And we have big things in the works with EMS. And finally, we have at Reckless Brewing. I'm telling you, I hear more and more people going to Reckless and enjoying their time there. And on a side note, I was talking to Steve about IPA versus double IPA. And apparently double IPA has more alcohol content because there's more sugar content. So there's a little tip for you. But so because, I cannot stand an IPA, but double IPA is definitely fantastic. So at Reckless, it's like craft beer, the best food, entertainment. They have huge stuff going on this weekend for the 4th, so be sure to check them out. They're right in Bethlehem.
Very good. I will hopefully get there soon. So this is 47 minutes in. We haven't even got to the show opening yet.
Dude, yeah. This is like, it's like almost an hour in. So this is epic.
Yeah. And honestly, we were supposed to have a guest this week, and it kind of like, it was no fault of the guest. It was kind of like my screw up. But, so we switched the show up a little bit, but we definitely like are digging through the topics file to clean some stuff out. But anyway, welcome to episode 65 of the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast. This week I'm interviewing Stomp about a few past hikes that he's done that involve slides.
Hell yeah.
Including, the Mount Lowell and the Whitewall slide. And in addition to those topics, I've got some hikes planned over the long weekend. So in preparation, I looked up some history on the background of some places related to Evans Notch, so the Royce Mountains and Evans Notch. So we'll cover all that and some recent search and rescue news. So I'm Mike.
And I'm Stomp. Let's get this started.
Let's get started, although we've been started. So what are you drinking? Anything good tonight?
Nothing in particular. Just hanging.
I am back to Sierra Nevada Summer Break IPA. So it's an old school 12-ounce can, which is good. My wife bought these a few weeks ago, so I'm just making my way through them. I got the Reckless up in Maine, so we'll be heading up there over the weekend. And then any recent hikes for you, Stomp?
No, unfortunately, nothing for me. I've been trying, but it was like my intention was to go out Saturday morning, but when I got that text from Larson about Steve coming in on the Dodge to Lodge, I'm like, that's it, gotta go. So my plans were thwarted. What I wanted to do was the Hazelton Brook up to Tecumseh, but backburned it for now.
Okay, well, you got plenty to do this weekend, which will be good.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, notable hikes. Anything that we've been tagged? You got a list there, Stomp?
Yeah, we sure do. Steve Summits. Yeah, Steve Summits did a single day Prezi. KJ Gear Girl made the trip to Wolfboro to visit the beer and soap shop. So,
I'm so jealous. Didn't she say it was closed though?
Something like that. And then I couldn't quite decipher the message, but apparently tried to get to Reckless as well, but they didn't do takeout like for beer. I don't know. But KJ, thank you so much for checking that out. We'll get there too. Laura Tobin did Mount Madison and the Cornice. Nick Sidla up Airline for trail maintenance, and then back to Madison for a Reckless brew.
Oh, there nice, you go. Nick. Thanks for fixing up the airline trail. That's a fun one.
Oh, no kidding. Boy, last time I was up there was with my daughter, and it was blowdown. It was such a field of blowdowns. It was amazing. Yeah. Let's see. Moving on. Mind Hunter Rabbit did Kearsarge North. And of course, Gwen Stratton, who supported Steve this weekend. That's what she posted. So like looking at my note now, she supported Steve. So
she did everything in the whites. So,
yeah, she did the entire White Mountain National Forest and then supported Steve. Gwen, you're the best. So that's pretty notable. It's pretty cool when your friends just say, I got to support this guy, and just give up your time and support somebody. I think that's super, super epic. Oh my God, here's a pronunciation twister. Just Benny's, Bennes. Is it Ben's? Benny's? I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's Justin. So he's definitely tagged us a few times on different hikes. Yeah. He had some amazing photos that he posted.
Oh, sure. So apparently he just crushed 17 and 18 out of 48 and crushed the Kinsmans, and it was a dad venture, so that's pretty cool.
Yes.
There was a little guy involved. And then Bro Neil 17 did the Zealand Bonds Traverse, which takes him or her to 37 out of 48. And then, of course, Shandy, congratulations on finishing your 48. And it was an overnight Zealand to Bonds Traverse. That's all we have.
All right. Well, we'll give the winner for Shandy for finishing the 4,000 footer. So,
Yeah. It's well deserved. So yeah, the 48 takes it on that one. Yep. By the way, I think we should have somebody that can represent the 500 highest. What do you think?
Sure. I thought that was you.
No, it's not. I mean, I'm working on it, but there are people that have done it like multiple times that I would love to have in soon.
Just bring them in, Stomp.
All right. I'll work on it. I've got some leads. Yeah, sure would.
All right, so I'm going to interview you now, Stomp, about a couple of these peaks. So I was curious about this because I'm going hiking a bunch this weekend. I don't know if I'm going to get over to this area, but I was thinking about it. But I want to talk about Mount Lowell. I want to talk about the Whitewall Slide. I want to talk about Carrigain in that area, and then Vos Spur, I think, is up there.
Vos, yep.
Vos, whatever it is. So can you talk? So first of all, Mount Lowell is right across from Mount Carrigain, and it is like this like very steep slide that, like, if you take the Kerrigan Notch Trail and you sort of veer to the right instead of going up Signal Ridge, you'll make your way out in front of Mount Lowell. There's a slide that's not really a slide. It's more of a true traditional like rock climb, but it's so brittle in there that it's difficult to actually do a traditional rock climb. Stomp and Jimmy Chaga and our friend Casey had actually free climbed this, which back in his crazy days. But I wanted to find out from you, Stomp, like if you were going to bypass the slide and you wanted to bushwhack up Mount Lowell, is it like, are the views worth it? And then is there any sort of camping up there? Can you talk a little bit about like what's the deal with Mount Lowell as far as like going up there and hiking and views and whatnot?
Yeah, Lowell is like a strange beast for sure. I think the best, easiest, safest way to get to it would be from the Mount Nancy route. So you come in through Nancy Pond and then bushwhack south to the peak itself. So that would be over Anderson and then to Lowell. I think it's the western slides are just really very difficult. It's like expert terrain, very dangerous. So unless you're really looking for a thrill and you have the experience, I would avoid that. And, from my experience after doing the Lowell shoot, we came down after the summit southwest, and that was not easy either. So I really think if you want to get up to Lowell, you have to go probably from the north.
It looks like the... that's a boundary. That's not a trail, but it looks like there's a very like large section of the north that's just a big flat. I'm assuming it's trees, or is it open up there?
Oh God, no! It's like blowdowns and thick scrub, dude. It's like it's the thickest stuff next to the Captain that I can recall. It's brutal in there, and it's somewhat confusing because it's like an let me say this correctly, undulating topography. So you're up and then you're down and you're climbing over the deep blowdown. So it's very tough in there. So unless you do your research, man, it's a challenge. Okay. Again, I think from what I've heard and what I've experienced and what I've talked to, I've passed the torch on to others. Steve, Gwen, they've done the shoot and they ran into some of the same issues trying to get off of that summit. And I think the north is probably the best, safest way to go. Like, approach it from the north. Even if you have to do Carrigain Notch all the way up to like Desolation and then backtrack and bushwhack up, sort of shading southeast, I think that's probably the safest bet. Okay. So you ready? You gonna go?
Well, no, immediately no. I was kind of curious about it, and I figured there might be some listeners, but I guess I am interested. Like I've heard Vos Spur is beautiful, a little bit more, I guess, achievable. So I think that's it's a bushwhack, but it's more of a herd path to get out there. Is that fair to say?
Correct. Yeah. So from the same trail, I don't have a map in front of me, but is it Carrigain Notch Trail? From Signal Ridge?
Yeah. So basically, Carrigain Notch Trail, like it goes right in between Vos Spur and Mount Lowell. Okay. So it looks steep as hell to get up to Vos Spur from Carrigan Notch.
Right. So I think a lot of people have been doing this lately. So from the top of Carrigain, you can bushwhack down to Vaux Spur. The easiest way to get to this peak, Vaux Spur itself, is probably from Carrigain Notch Trail. And, you know, it's essentially the same starting point as if you were trying to go up the Lowell chute. But what you have at this point is a well-established herd path and, ledges and somewhat of a pseudo slide to get up to the top of Vaux. But the coolest thing about this peak, which I think a lot of people miss, is that if you come off the peak heading towards Carrigain, you come into a saddle of talus boulders that is absolutely mind-blowing. It's so cool. It's just such a strange place because you have this talus field that's way up high in elevation, and it's literally like a saddle. So it sits between, it's a COL call between Carrigain and Vaux Spur. So it's, something to be checked out. It's very cool.
Yeah. And it's accessible. Like you could, in theory, like if you want to do an overnight, like you could hike up to Carrigain, and then like there's that like camping area there, which I think is legal.
Where? Oh,
like right below the platform, yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah, and totally. Then like you could probably hit Vaux Spur, does an out and back as well. So it's a it's definitely a cool area there. I've only done like winter camping out there, so I haven't actually done Kerrigan or any of these in the summer. So I do want to get back out there with my daughter because she's got to get her list going. So we may be doing something out here this weekend.
And I will add this: I don't recommend the Lowell chute for pretty much anybody. Like having done it, I wish I hadn't because it was really beyond my skill level. But I think that there is the possibility that you could sort of bushwhack your way up to the first head wall and turn around and get a view that's unlike any other. It's really neat because you have these massive 50-foot gully walls to your left and right, and it looks directly upon Signal Ridge. So it's very, very unique. That's absolutely fair game for most people, I think, getting up to that head wall and then saying, okay, see you later, and turning around, going back.
Is it on like the 100 highest or the 500 highest, I'm assuming?
The chute?
No.
Or
just Mount Lowell in general.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's on all the lists. Yep, 100 highest, I believe, the 500.
So but basically, like, I think what I was trying to figure out is, like, without doing the chute, what's the best way to get up there, and is it worth it? But it doesn't sound like the juice is worth the squeeze as much as, like, if you were going to do Vaux Spur, that's the better view and experience, it seems like.
For view, I can't. Yeah, Vaux is a little different for view. I mean, if you want a view, then you should probably bust your way up to Lowell somehow and, shade your way down to the edge of some of those ledges, because there are some really neat views, whether it's from the base of that chute or from some of the other talus fields or the tops of some of those other ledges. I mean, it's really a neat place.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So next question I had for you is Whitewall slide. So I know Jack has talked about this when he was on here. And
yeah, Jack is the pro on this one. I've done it once at night.
You and Jimmy and Casey did this at night, right?
Actually, it was just Chagger and myself, and it was like a wet night. It was sort of ridiculous. Whitewall, the slide itself is accessible if you take the Ethan Pond Trail from Zealand Trail, just before the hut. You bang a left if you're heading towards the hut. And this is actually where Steve Mason and Larson parted ways, if I remember correctly, during the Lodge to Dodge a month ago.
Correct, yep.
Yeah, so like a mile in, you'll come to the base of the lodge. Oh my God, my brain. To the slide, and that is very proximate to the cutoff to Z Cliff. So the slide begins very close to the trail junction for Zealand Cliff, which is a nice, overlook that overlooks into the valley. Jack is definitely the one for this one, but I was absolutely terrified doing this because Jimmy and I hit it at night. We had headlamps, and it's a fairly short slide, but it's a super active slide. And in terms of the slides that I've done over the last few years, this is the most active slide. So you have to really plan your steps and your footing, and it gets super steep. And at the top, you have about 100 yards of thick scrub to break through before you get to the ledges at the top. And the ledges at the top are beautiful because they look towards Carrigain and the whole thing. I mean, it's an amazing place to camp.
Yeah, and this is the slide that you see. If you're on Z Cliff, this is the slide that's looking right at you.
Oh, it's right there.
Yep,
directly, literally, what is that? Probably a quarter mile.
Oh yeah,
as the crow flies, it's right there. And I remember at the time, I forget her name. It's been a while, not being on social media as much, but there was one person at Z Hut when Jimmy and I did that nighttime, and she saw the headlamps going up, and she was like, "Who the hell's going up Whitewall at night after a rainstorm?" Yeah, it was like sort of cool, like street cred, but looking back on it, man, I was terrified. It was tough. Yeah, I'm sure it's better, like if it's drier and maybe a little bit of sunlight.
Well, that was back in your young and crazy days.
Stupid days, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Slasher's hiking topic of the week.
We might as well just move into section 2 here. So I am going to be doing a lot of hiking this weekend just because I've been stuck in graduation party hell for the last month or so. So I actually haven't even gotten out since the last time I hiked with my daughter, which was Mount Height. So I think likely what I'm going to end up doing is probably hiking on Saturday. I'm going to do the Royce. It might rain, but I'm going to do the Royces in Evans Notch, and then probably look to do some hiking. I think we're going to go on Monday. We might go up Pine Link and do Madison with my niece and daughter because they have to get Madison for their 4,000 footer list. And then maybe on Sunday I'll do the Carrigain and Vosper or something like that. But we'll figure it out.
Okay, cool.
But Evans Notch is close to where my father-in-law lives in Maine, so I wanted to just give an overview because I don't think Stomp. Have you been in Evans Notch at all?
If that includes the bald faces, then yes. But yes. I'm really not very familiar with the area.
Yeah, okay. Yes. So Evans Notch is it's the most eastern part of the White Mountains, and it goes, the majority of it is in Maine actually. So you go up 113 from Freiburg, and it takes you into I think Shelburne, New Hampshire is at the other end of it. And it's an absolutely beautiful place, and you can connect through the Wild River. You can connect up into the Carters and the Wildcats through the Rainbow Trail, which we've talked about. The back of the Bald Faces, but the main peaks is the Bald Face Loop is probably one of the best hikes in the Whites. Matter of fact, I'm going to meet up with Mindy and Beth Lynn and my sister-in-law in a couple of weekends, and we're going to be doing that, which will be exciting. But there's also the Royces, which I've never hiked. Those were previously, one of those peaks was on the 52 with a view. It got delisted, so I'm going to go ahead and do that this weekend. And then they've got a number of areas for camping. They've got the Basin, they've got Blueberry Mountain, Caribou Mountain. Blueberry Mountain actually is a cool area, and they have I think it's a legal mining or prospecting site there where you can prospect for mica and different minerals and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
I don't really know all the details, but it's a great place. And the road, even if you're looking for a cool place to drive, especially in the foliage season, 113 through Evans Notch is this narrow, winding road that is just so cool to drive. And you can even there's a lot of people that it's a big biking destination too. Cyclists will ride. It's a pretty steep hill, but once you get to the top, you can go for 6 or 8 miles downhill in either direction, which is cool.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So anyway,
and less people, I think.
Oh yeah, Bald Faces gets crowded for sure, but once you get past that, most of these areas are not well traveled. Like there's not a ton of people.
Yeah.
Which is great. But I'm going to be hiking the Royces on Saturday, and then from there I'll be figuring out the rest of my weekend. But I did want to talk a little bit about the history of the Royces and Evans Notch in particular.
Let's dive into some White Mountains history, shall we?
I did a little bit of research here. So the Royce Mountains are named after a guy named Vere Royce, who was a soldier and surveyor and one time was the Surveyor General of New Hampshire. So he made a lot of the early maps for many of the White Mountain towns, including Chatham, Bartlett, and Bretton Woods. And then this guy was granted like 2,000 acres near the Saco River between Glen and Bartlett. So I would think that like the area on Route 16 where you head into like towards Attitash, like that whole Storyland area, all that 2,000 acres, like he had all of that land at one point, and he was given that land based on services during a variety of these wars that went on during the late 1700s and the Revolutionary War. But he never ended up settling there, but he was just sort of a guy that was in the area. But the peaks west of Evans Notch and nearby by East Royce are named after him. And there's also a Royce Mountain that appeared in a map that Samuel Holland had created in 1784. So this guy was a pretty well-known sort of early settler in the area, which I thought was pretty cool. And that's a cool name, Royce.
It is, yeah. It's like aristocratic.
Yes.
Royce.
Yeah, it is. And then as far as Evans Notch goes, the origin of Evans Notch is that they believe that this was named after a gentleman by the name of Captain John Evans, who was an original grantee of Fryeburg, Maine. And he was a guy that was in the front lines of a number of different Indian wars. And he had been one of what's known as Rogers Rangers. So I guess following an Indian raid in Bethel, Maine, he was put in command of an armed guard on the Androscoggin River into winter. I guess in winter they didn't have to worry about attacks because everybody settled down. But in 1774, he had worked on the first road through Pinkham Notch. And then eventually he was part of the guide team that had guided Dr. Jeremy Belknap on his White Mountain expeditions that we talked about a few weeks ago. So he was one of the experienced mountain guides that Belknap had relied on in his research of the botanical aspects of the White Mountains back in the late 1780s. And now there is a little bit of dispute around the naming of Evans Notch, saying that there was another family there was a gentleman by the name of Amos Evans who were settlers in like the early 1800s. So it's unclear with certainty whether or not John Evans was the person that they named it after, or whether it was Amos Evans, but they're pretty sure it was the Captain John Evans. And this guy was one of the the early settlers as well. They said the first road through Evans Notch was attempted in 1861, so this guy was long gone by the time they actually were able to build a road. And the road through there is like crazy. It's like narrow, winding. So I can only imagine what it was like in the 1800s trying to build a road through there. But eventually they were able to get horse-drawn vehicles through North Chatham and Gilead, Maine. And they followed what they thought was likely an old trail that had been made by Indians, and it had been washed out quite a bit. And eventually, it was only a hiking trail up until like the mid 1900s, and eventually they were able to build out the road in like 1936 was when they finally got it together. But it is a rugged area for sure.
Absolutely. Wow. Incredible history.
Yeah, it is. The other interesting thing, and I don't want to talk about politics because I don't think anybody gives a shit what we have to say about it, but I did think that it was interesting with the most recent ruling with the Supreme Court around abortion laws, and the fact that like a lot of people are sort of pointing to the fact that we're turning into Gilead, and every time somebody says that, they're like, could you imagine that we're really turning into it. And I always chuckle because there's a Gilead in Maine that you drive past when you go through Evans Notch. So you see that town. And for people that aren't aware, Gilead is known as like for the Handmaid's Tale, which is the story about like how the U.S. gets taken over by this oppressive regime. Gilead is the name of the nation that gets developed, and there's a town in Maine called Gilead that was, I guess, incorporated in the 1700s, which I thought was pretty interesting. So, but Gilead's a small town. I think it has like, last time I checked here, I'm looking at the Wikipedia, it's got 209 people. So it's just right at the entrance of Evans Notch. Nice little area. There's like a few different like barns and small houses and things like that. But there is truly, if anybody's complaining that Gilead is coming to the U.S., there's always been a Gilead, and it's in Maine.
Of course.
Yeah. Anyway.
Sounds creepy.
Yep, exactly. But next episode, I will give a breakdown on all the hikes I did in Evans Notch, and we'll talk about it in more detail.
Excellent.
All right, so on to recent search and rescue news here. So we got some national stuff. Hiker trapped in quicksand is rescued. And Stomp, based on cartoons that I used to watch in Gilligan's Island, like I always thought that quicksand was going to be something that was a much bigger part of my life as an adult than it actually turned out to be.
Okay.
I always thought there would be more quicksand around, but there's not.
I know. All these fears that we grew up with as kids. Yeah. But apparently the risk is there.
I guess.
According to the story.
It's possible, yeah. So quicksand sucked a hiker into chest-deep mud in a Utah gorge, park officials say.
That's scary, dude.
Yeah, it's scary. It's scary. So the hiker told the Bureau of Land Management officials that they were stuck in quicksand up to their chest at the Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument. They would have been unable to extract themselves from the sand if alone, officials said. So the Land Management Bureau issued a warning for all visitors in the Grand Staircase Escalante Monument, and officials said mud cracks along the pond's edge made people think the quicksand was stable. So visitors should also think about the concerns of extraction from quicksand, like they're not thinking about that. Once the core of your body is in wet sand, it can cause an increased risk to exposure. So
interesting.
I didn't realize this, but apparently not only obviously like breathing is an issue, but quicksand can cool the body's temperatures down during a cold night. And yeah, so I never considered that.
Oh, sure. Well, think of what happens like in those hot, arid areas anyway. It can drop down into the 30s.
Yeah, it's interesting. So,
wow.
But here's the deal, Stomp. If you want to get out of quicksand, here's what you got to do. Quicksand is hard to get out of, but people usually don't get sucked fully under. So people can float in the quicksand. So people who get stuck should wiggle your legs around, experts told National Geographic. This creates a space between the legs and the quicksand through which water can flow down to dilute the loosening sand.
Yeah. A
physics professor at some institute, I can't pronounce his name. You can get out using this technique if you do it slowly and progressively.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to have to try it out anytime soon.
We'll have to experiment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Next one here is rescue beacon helped save hiker who fell 400 feet down snowy Colorado slope. I feel like the snow in Colorado very late in the year. So absolutely. 400 feet, this hiker plunged down. 27-year-old woman was hiking near Snowmass when she fell 400 feet. She had a possible open leg fracture and head injury. So rescuers received a emergency message from a rescue beacon device at around 4:30 p.m. and rushed to help the woman. When they arrived, 2 bystanders and a nurse were caring for the injured hiker. Officials determined the woman needed to be flown off the mountain, so rescuers hiked to the woman on foot and stabilized her injuries. The woman was flown in a helicopter to the Aspen Valley Hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. So this woman got helped out by other bystanders on the scene, and they were able to move her to a helicopter landing zone. So it took about 8 hours total for this lady. So they're still dealing with snow out there in late June in Colorado.
Yeah, what about the beacon, though? Does it talk about the beacon?
Not too much. It just says that she was able to activate it. I don't even know if it was her beacon or if it was somebody else's beacon.
Okay. Or if it was like an avalanche beacon. So there's some unknowns here that I'm curious about.
Yeah, it could be. It doesn't say, but I would assume, like, if you're hiking in Colorado, like, you would have to, I feel like you have to be more aware of avalanche issues out there than the whites, but maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, for sure.
Okay. This next one is Bad Girls Gone Good.
No, God.
No. Oh,
God.
Wait a minute.
This is amazing.
Oh,
this
Bad
is
Girls Gone God.
See, this is perfect.
Film
This
crew.
is a reality TV crew getting in trouble.
Okay, got it. I thought it was Bad Girls Gone Good.
Nope. It's a bunch of bad girls gone God.
Oh, gone God. I see. All right. So here we go.
Yeah.
So
and they got themselves in trouble.
Got it. So this was girls that were, were they really bad girls or were they just like not religious?
You know, the show's yet to be released, but when it's released, I'll check it out and let you know.
All right, we'll have to check this out. I have no interest in this show, but I thought it was Bad Girls Gone Good. That seems interesting to me. Bad Girls Gone God, not so interesting. 8 Camelback Mountain hikers had to be rescued from the Echo Canyon Trail in Arizona Thursday due to heat-related illness and dehydration. The hikers had been filming a faith-related reality TV series where they called emergency first responders for assistance on Thursday morning. So there was 15 total hikers. None of them were Phoenix locals. They were visiting from Alabama, California, and Tennessee. None of them are familiar with Echo Canyon Trail, and the hikers had not done any research on the trail's difficulties or dangers ahead of time. They were just putting their faith in God. They instead prepared to bring one water bottle each and over half carried a phone. We had no idea going into it that this apparently was one of the hardest trails in Phoenix. The hikers were
Isn't
at
it crazy?
Camelback Mountain. Yeah. So I guess they were doing this TV reality series. I don't know if they were like filming their hike or if this was a day off or whatever, but they do this women's retreat every year where we get together, they praise, they worship, and they do different activities, not only to test our physical, but spiritual strength as well.
Yeah.
So,
it's a funny story. It's like...
Yeah, they started at 7 a.m., and the temperature reached 105 degrees. And once the heat really started cranking up, they all started getting symptoms of heat exhaustion. They kept stopping, and then they had no more water. So the more that we stopped, the harder it got. They started getting dizzy.
Wow.
And they started realizing things were wrong. So 8 of the hikers had to be rescued off the mountain later that morning, both on foot and by helicopter. Mm-hmm. So the ones that were less affected by heat offered their water and phones to communicate with emergency services as the descent down the mountain grew more difficult for the hikers and first responders. So the rescue took, how many people do you think it took to help rescue these people?
Oh, I have no idea.
100 men and women from the Phoenix Fire Department had to help out with this thing.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so they were all spread out amongst the Echo Canyon Trail. So they had a drone that was used to locate the group of hikers. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
So they were all spread out across the trail. So they used the drone to map out where they were.
That's cool.
And of the 15 women, 5 were rescued by helicopter in a big wheel basket, while 3 were able to walk down the mountain with assistance. So the Phoenix Fire Department reported that 3 of the hikers needed to be taken to the hospital but are stable. Ultimately, all 15 hikers were successfully rescued. And then they said that there's not there's been a history here of people dying and getting in trouble on Facebook. So if you go to Phoenix, and I wonder if this is the place where that girl that from Saugus got killed or died. Remember the girl that like did the social media date with the cop that had like a wife and was shady as hell.
Oh, yeah. I do recall that. Yeah.
So anyway, that's pretty interesting. So I'm going to do some more digging and see if I can get some more links on this. But 100 people to rescue this crew. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I grew up in the church, and I know my Bible a little bit. And there's a verse. I don't remember the verse in particular, but it says something to the effect of, "Do not put the Lord your God to the test." Like, come on. So I guess they didn't know about this little commandment.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
All right, so next one here. So dog who fell off a 50-foot cliff causes a headache for rescuers because she's the same color as the rocks. So there's a picture of this. So this dog is extra. So it's a Chinese blue Shar-Pei. And the dog's name is Roxy. So it left the Coast Guard stumped after she fell off the 50-foot cliff. And oh shit, this is like one of those pictures where it's like spot the
like where's Waldo?
Find the snake. Yeah, or like find the snake or whatever. So oh yeah, look at that thing. It just blends right in. It's like one of those wrinkly dogs.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I can't find it, Stomp.
Gotcha. Yeah, neither can I.
All right. Well,
but it's a little twist to your typical rescue.
Yeah. So the dog jumped 50-foot cliff, and it looks like one of those dogs that doesn't have a lot of energy. So the dog just chilled out. Couldn't find it. The owners were joined by some Coast Guard. This was in the UK, it looks like, or Scotland or something. Yeah. And they finally spotted the gray dog, which was camouflaged against the rocks. And they were able to rescue this guy. But wow.
Yeah,
I can look through this. I don't have time right now to do this while we're recording, but hopefully the dog's okay. Jesus.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Beautiful area, though, there.
Oh, absolutely. The coast looks incredible.
Yeah, and the dog looks like a sweet dog. It's a big dog. So, there it is. I see it now. Yeah, it'd be tough to find that dog in there, so I'll post a picture. All right, so now getting on to some local stories here. So, youth operator injured while riding an ATV. Stop me if you've heard this one before.
Time of the year.
It's that time of the year. So, this was in Berlin, Thursday afternoon, 3:40. ATV crash involving a youth operator on Brook Pond Road in Jericho State Park. A lot of stuff goes on in Jericho.
Yep, that's the hub of that whole subculture up there.
Yeah, exactly. So according to the operator and his father, the youth was traveling on the trail following behind his father when he entered a cloud of dust while heading into a right turn. As he entered the dust cloud, he realized that he would not have time to navigate around a closed gate up ahead and crossed over to the left side of the trail. He then left the travel portion of the trail and continued into a ditch where he had an ATV that was stuck. He got ejected and I guess injured. So subsequently they transported him to Androscoggin Valley Hospital in Berlin for evaluation. And I guess they interviewed the operator. I guess he sustained serious but non-life-threatening injuries. He was wearing a helmet and goggles. And it really doesn't make too much judgment. Sort of indicates that in all cases speed should be controlled so the operator will be able to avoid colliding with any persons, vehicles, or objects. So he was probably going a little bit too fast. Some of the commenters on Facebook, learn how to drive.
Oh, of course.
Sounds like he was following a bit too close. Speed and dust will get you every time.
Learn how to drive. It's a kid.
I guess.
Oh, boy.
Yep. Fishing game is the next one here. Fishing game. Sorry. Let me get reset. Vermont man killed when truck crashes off I-93 and plunges into the Connecticut River. So truck pulling from river after going down and pulled from river.
Yeah.
So these are always scary here. So Vermont man was killed Tuesday when his pickup truck drifted off I-93 onto the Connecticut River in Littleton and plunged into the water. So this was a dog-ran truck. Yep.
Yeah, the reason I forwarded that along was because Fishing Game was involved, as it was associated with the waterways of the area. So, but what a horrific story. It's just really sad.
Yeah, scary. So 44-year-old gentleman in Concord, Vermont was pronounced dead on the scene. So Doesn't give a ton of details other than it just sort of says, let's give credit to the folks that were in the water risking their lives to try to get down and make a recovery. But other than that, it really doesn't say anything around what happened. I guess the vehicle drifted off the road, struck a tree, and then traveled down an embankment into the river. So scary stuff.
But what the report doesn't say, the picture does say, and that bridge was hella high. It's just a horrible scene.
Yeah. It looks like they've got straps around the vehicle, which tells me they must have a crane or something pulling it out. But
yeah,
it's a big truck. So
yeah.
And then the last one here this is somewhat of a common occurrence. So climbers assisted off of Cannon Cliff. So 9:45 at night, June 25th, Fishing Game was notified of 2 men who became stranded near the top of the Moby Grape climbing route. So Providence, Rhode Island gentleman and a Brooklyn, New York gentleman. So late 20s, they had made plans to ascend the multi-pitch route on Cannon Cliff during the day when they found themselves off the primary route while attempting to bypass a slab section. I guess they made several attempts of self-rescue and eventually said, screw it, let's call 911 around 9:15. PEMI Search and Rescue got there with some of the climbers that had experience, and they arrived at the access point of the climbing descent trail off the northern end of the Cannon Cliff. And I guess they were able to ascend the trail, and after reaching a point above the climbers, an anchor point was established, and the PEMI team member descended to the 2 men, and shortly thereafter the men ascended up this established rope back to the anchor point and prepared to descend to the hiking trail. So I guess well, long night though, Jesus. So rescue was safely...
Yeah, well, it started at 9:50.
Yeah, they got them out there like 4 in the morning in the parking lot.
Right. That's a long night.
I wonder what time these guys started climbing.
The report really doesn't say. But it just goes to show you how long these events can take from the initiation to the completion, and just to make sure that the responders are safe.
Interesting. One more I got for you, Stomp, that we didn't put on here, but I just caught this earlier today. So this guy, remember Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito, the young blonde girl that got killed, and then this guy was on the run in Florida and ended up killing himself? Remember that case?
Oof. Not really.
Yeah,
doesn't ring a bell.
So Gabby Petito, they were van lifers, and she had gotten pulled over. Pretty young lady. There was video of her talking to a cop and crying and all this stuff. Anyway, it's a whole big manhunt for this guy in Florida. So it turned out he had killed her, but it turns out he claimed that he wrote in his notebook that they had been hiking in Utah. She got injured. She got cold. She was hypothermic, and he decided to kill her to put her out of her misery. Which is probably a bullshit story, but I found that interesting. So I'll put a link in the show notes for this guy as well. But that's sort of the end of the story, I guess, from his perspective.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting.
Crazy story.
Huh.
But that's it, Stomp. I got a daughter waiting to do laundry, so I got to go.
Okay.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to learn more about the topics covered in today's show, please check out the show notes and safety information at SLASRpodcast.com. That's SLASR podcast.com. You can also follow the show on Facebook and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next week for another great show. Until then, on behalf of Mike and Stomp, get out there and crush some mega peaks.
Now covered in scratches, blisters, and bug bites, Chris Staff wanted to complete his most challenging day hike ever.
Fish and Game officers say the hiker from Florida activated an emergency beacon yesterday morning. He was hiking along the Appalachian Trail when the weather started to get worse. Officials say the snow was piled up to 3 feet in some spots, and there was a wind chill of -1 degree.
And there's 3 words that describe this race. Do we all know what they are?
Only one hill!
Here's Lieutenant James Nealon, New Hampshire Fish and Game. Lieutenant, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
What are some of the most common mistakes you see people make when they're heading out on the trails to hike here in New Hampshire?
It seems to me the most common is being unprepared, and I think if they just simply visited hikesafe.com and got a list of the 10 essential items and had those in their packs, they probably would have no need to ever call us at all.